What's up, guys? Salute! Smackdown, December 1st, 2023. The show just got over a couple 2-3 minutes ago. Usually, I like to sleep on these notes, wake up with a clear head, a cup of coffee, and then we tackle the review. But due to a lot of traveling this weekend, this is the only time that BC has to cut this review. So for full transparency, if there's any injuries we find out about, big news stories coming out of the event, as of the recording of this review, we didn't know about it. Again, we're not cutting this the next morning, so full transparency. Yet here we are, and I got the notes. Again, the show just got over a couple 2-3 minutes ago, so this is going to be my fresh thoughts, my fresh takes on every single segment on this show. But I will put a little bit of a cold open teaser for you, all right? The bulk of this show in large was rather tame and uneventful until we got to the main event segment, which was Randy Orton making a huge decision. Is he going to sign with Adam Pearce in Monday Night Raw, or is he going to stay blue brand with Nick Aldis? So his path to Roman Reigns is initiated from the jump. And the decision was so well done, the way they set it up throughout the night. And everything that happened in that main event segment, everything that happened with this Randy Orton decision, all of the moving parts, it was so well done. It was everything that BC asks for in a pro wrestling segment to get me interested, excited, enthusiastic. Pique my interest on a storyline or a match for the future, because we've seen Roman and Randy Orton in the past, but damn, did it take on another whole life form. The path that Randy Orton has been on the last 18 months just to get back into that ring, to get back to the people that took him out. And Roman Reigns, the path that he has been on and continues to be on. Unlike anything we have seen in decades, that's what Roman Reigns is on. But those paths will cross, most likely Royal Rumble. You don't expect Randy Orton to walk out with the title, right? If Roman was going to lose that title and they don't decide, or should I say they decide not to have him take Hulk Hogan's 1474 record, and they have Roman drop the title, you gotta believe it's WrestleMania. You gotta believe it would be Cody Rhodes if The Rock wants nothing to do with Roman. It wouldn't be Randy Orton, right? I mean, that was an easy, of course not, before tonight's SmackDown went live. But after SmackDown went off the air, I'm not so sure. That reaction that Randy Orton got tonight was right up there with LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, and even CM Punk. That reaction that Brooklyn gave Randy Orton, and full transparency, Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx, little bit of Long Island, maybe some Staten Island too. Maybe some Jerseyans came over. You got to show the full love, because all of New York and even Jersey shows up to these shows when they're in Brooklyn and even the Garden in Manhattan. So you got to give the love to all of New York if you're just gonna rep Brooklyn for tonight's event. They showed up and they were loud for Randy Orton. What a reaction. So you still say he can't be taking the title from Roman, but after that reaction and seeing the presence and the aura that Randy Orton has brought back with him after 18 months, you could easily say this dude's on top of the wrestling world. So the only audible would be, do you drag that to Mania? And do you do Cody Rhodes dirty? I don't know. These are questions. You got to still believe it's going to be Randy and Roman at Rumble. That's why they added 3 new dates for Roman Reigns, by the way. Literally just yesterday, we put up an upload yesterday about that. It was 3 new dates. Spur of the moment, WWE just shot them out there around 4 p.m. So that tells you they're finalizing a big match. You got to believe that's Randy Orton. Anyway, that was the big segment tonight on SmackDown, and it was one of the best pro wrestling segments I have seen in a very long time. It was so well set up, so well done, and this is the Randy Orton that I've sorely missed, because the year before his injury, and just dancing around with RK Bro and Scooter McStevenson in his little scooter. Man, that is not the Randy Orton. That's not the best Randy Orton we could have been getting. It's getting fun now. So again, the show in large part was rather tame and uneventful. We're going to go over it. We'll see if I'm wrong. We'll see if the notes pretty much spark a little bit more life into them than what I remember watching it just an hour or two ago. But the end, that's where the fun is. So I'm going to get a swig of coffee, come right on back. Let's talk about it. SmackDown 12/1/23. Amplify. So this show starts with Bianca Belair, Charlie Flair, and Shotzi brawling with the Damage Control minus a Bayley. The faces clear the ring, so Control loses War Games, and then they get their asses whooped in the first segment of SmackDown, and retreat in the first segment of SmackDown. So a loss at War Games, a whooping at the beginning of SmackDown, and then retreating at the beginning of SmackDown. I gotta be honest with you, this is not the best way you could possibly book Damage Control. And I know they're heels, right? So they have to do these type of things a little bit more often, right? Take the whoopings, take the L's, deal with some questionable booking from time to time. I get it. But it's just not realistic or believable for BC to watch Asuka, Io, and Kairi all get their asses whooped so frequently, especially together as a unit. And I understand it's Super Belair and Super Flair and Little Shotzi, but man, these are really, really incredibly badass wrestlers, and they're just, I don't know. For someone like BC that knows their talent, it's hard for me to believably enter that realm that they could not just get their asses whooped so much, but like retreat and run away. Just odd to me. Very odd booking. And just, I'll just leave it at that, man. Because you want to believe that the story is going to be really good at the tail end of this, right? However Bayley is taken out of this group, if she is, at the end of the night, it didn't really... There was some... And I'll get to it, right? How Judgment Day. Damage Control gets booted from Kairi's match against Bianca, but Bayley shows up to save the day. And Bayley actually hit a grand slam. She really tried to help Kairi. But what happened is all on Kairi, not Bayley. So Bayley didn't do anything tonight that would warrant anybody being upset with her or her questioning her own place in Damage Control. So when we say a slow build to get Bayley out of this group, if that's where they're headed, this is very slow. This is like watching a pot of water boil. But if they make it interesting, okay. But if Damage Control is just as a unit going to be so meaningless, then we're going to have to speed it up. I love the booking of Io. Io is having some of the best matches of her career. She's finally showcasing her talents to those that maybe didn't give her a second look in the past. She has a real title reign. It's badass. I love it. As a group, even adding Kairi and Asuka, you thought, okay, now Damage Control is relevant. Now Damage Control is going to be prestigious and badass. If anything, they may have gotten worse with the addition of Kairi and Asuka. That's what I'll say about it for now. We'll move on. But all of this, again, for Super Charlie to get more shine makes no sense. She already has all the shine. Bianca Belair just got back. She does not need to take out Damage Control every single week, every show. And Shotzi... I don't even know what to think of Shotzi, to be honest with you, but I just know that Damage Control, we got to make them a formidable group. It's not just like it's one big star and a lot of jobbers, It's not even like Legacy when Orton was the guy and Ted DiBiase Jr. and Cody Rhodes are two youngins. They could be something in the business one day. Right? And they're getting so much experience being with Randy. Or HHH and Ric Flair having Batista and Randy Orton so young in the game. But one day, Batista and Orton might be something. It's not even like that. This is already a star-studded group. And they're just booked like Barry Horowitz and who's the other? Brooklyn Brawler, Iron Mike Sharp. You guys probably don't know who they are, but back in the day, growing up, those were like legit jobbers. That's where the name even came from. These guys would show up every single week on WWE Superstars on Saturday morning, and they would get beat by every wrestler on the roster. And they show up the next week and they get beat by somebody else. They never won. Literally job. I mean, I understand EO's got the title, but when they're a group, what are we doing with them? Like, you want to care about this group so that when the faces beat them up or win matches, we actually care about it. I mean, how many more times you guys need to see Charlie Flair and Bianca Belair beat up Damage Control? At this point, that's redundancy into a brick wall. Moving on. Bobby Lashley versus Butch. It was so good to see two things. First of all, Bobby Lashley's wrestling. It seemed like for months all he was doing was coming out after a Profits match, clapping and playing cheerleader to the crowd, and then we cut to commercial. Very odd. Last night, Bobby Lashley's actually wrestling. The second good thing that I like to see was probably the best thing that I saw in this whole segment. The Profits slowly walking with Bob Lashley. No cups, no dancing, no goofery, right? This was just the Profits aligning themselves with this new identity with Bobby Lashley. It's all business. Right? That's the Street Profits I want to see, man. They got rid of the red cups, which is good, but on their way to their matches, they're still kind of bouncing around, hyping up who? Your heels. Just walk with a new purpose, a new authority to you. And there with Bobby Lashley, that group just finally, for the first time in a long time, it looked like they belonged, like together, like that could be, possibly, if booked correctly going forward, a formidable group. So it was really good to see just that whole presentation coming to the ring. They looked like a real unit. There was no Ridge Holland. He walked out on Butch, of course, last week, so Butch didn't really have any backup. It was just pretty much street business versus Butch. Lashley defeats Butch, obviously. There was no way Butch was walking out with this. This was via pinfall. And that was pretty much it. Backstage, a segment later, Butch's night didn't get any better, as Pretty Deadly jumped him during an interview with the stunningly, shockingly, mind-bogglingly, ultra beautiful Kayla Braxton. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. This girl she just gets more beautiful by the show. Kayla Braxton. Skies open up. But anyway, she's interviewing Butch. Pretty Deadly enter frame, take out Butch. So it's going to be interesting to see if either Cameron Grimes or Dragon Lee link up with Butch. You could obviously see a returning Sheamus at some point down the line. If Holland doesn't pull his head out of his own ass. So they could keep it within the Brawling Brutes. But I mentioned Dragon Lee and Cameron Grimes because on the tour circuit, at the live events recently, Pretty Deadly has been facing and losing against Cameron Grimes and Dragon Lee. So usually when you do something on the live event circuit, they mingle that with the television. So it was weird to see them start something with Butch. Holland, of course, out. Sheamus out. Would they insert Dragon Lee or Cameron Grimes? It's a possibility. It'll be interesting to see which way they go with it. But yeah, this was a rough night for Butch for sure. Backstage, Nick Aldis informs Paul Heyman that he is signing Randy Orton to an exclusive contract to SmackDown, and he's willing to offer up the entire Bloodline, he tells Heyman. Heyman's not happy about it. So Aldis tells Heyman, so what are you going to do about it? And Heyman, this was beautiful, man. As Aldis tells him, what are you going to do about it? Heyman says exactly, this is a quote, anything it takes. And he has the phone up like he's about to call Roman Reigns. It was beautifully done. And Adam Pearce, a couple segments later, walks into Aldis's office, and he has his own Monday Night Raw contract. And he says, that's what you're going to do, a Monday Night Raw staple, a legend of Raw, and you're just going to swipe them from underneath me. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll meet you in the ring later tonight, because I have my own proposal. I have my own contract. So it's on. The contract bidding war of the end of 2023 into 2024. It ain't MJF, it's Randy Orton. I love the way that this was set up. Now you could say, that does this make the most sense? No, because he was Raw exclusive. But you could easily put in an asterisk, right? 18 months, they didn't know if he was going to be back, and Raw had to make a spot, right? You could do some story. I can believe that after all that time, Raw had to free up a spot. If you tell the story correctly, I can believe it. The way that this was set up, man, they were really, if you did this correctly, the end of the night could be special. The only question was, would they do it right? We now know the answer. They absolutely hit it out of the park. Not just a home run, a grand slam. This was just an incredible segment. We'll get to it in just a few minutes. But the way that it was set up, Pierce versus Aldis, both with a contract, both want Randy Orton. And it was the right night, right atmosphere, right place for it. You know, it's one of those things where all the stars aligned. But before we got into that, we have to finish hour number one, of course. That's Santos Escobar defeating Joaquin Wilde. This is via pinfall off the Phantom Driver. You pretty much could foreshadow that conclusion. Post-match, Dragon Lee hits the ring. The thing here is Santos already defeated Dragon Lee at Survivor Series. And if I recall, that was via pinfall. So I'm not sure what more you need to see from Dragon Lee and Escobar. Maybe we'll get some more good matches. Maybe we'll yell, "This is awesome." Maybe Meltzer will give it 4.5 stars. And I don't know. And then maybe we'll see it 3 or 4 more times, actually. I don't know. There was a few hundred people chanting Dragon Lee pretty loud in that Brooklyn crowd, too. That New York crowd. So good for Dragon Lee. I want the best for him. As I've told you guys in recent uploads, I don't see it in Dragon Lee. It just as a character, it doesn't do anything for me. He's a good wrestler, like move and sequence wise. I get it. But I mean, so many wrestlers are good wrestlers. What a concept. Connection wise, it ain't there. But a lot of you guys really like Dragon Lee. So you know what? I always say on this channel, it's not just about what BC likes. It's about what works, what is good, what is bad. So just because somebody doesn't connect with BC does not mean that it's bad. And if people still continue to chant his name, if people want to see that dude in big time matches, that's all that matters. But for me, there's no connection with this Dragon Lee. And I'm hoping that does change. But he comes through the curtain. It's another wrestler. Getting a lot of shine, which is good for him. But, it boggles my dome piece that LA Knight, you had to wait 8 months. And the whole excuse was where we just don't know yet what we're going to do with him. But Dragon Lee shows up and all of a sudden you want to catapult him to a moon because it checks off certain boxes. LA Knight should have had that back in February. Cameron Grimes shows up and you have him sit at catering. The only matches he wins is on live event tour circuits. And when he shows up on TV, he's losing to Austin Theory a bunch of times. Grayson Waller once. It's boggling to me, but that's a decision they made, and we'll see if it works out. But Dragon Lee, continuing this thing with Santos. Santos already beat him. It was a pinfall. I don't know. That's what I mean when I say a lot of this show was just repetitive in nature. It's almost like they don't have new direction. So they're just playing the redundancy game. They're just kind of just rehashing. Rematches are being set up for the horizon. We can do better than that. That was the end of hour number one, though. Dragon Lee kind of running off Santos after Santos beat Wilde, his old former LWO member. Now, hour number two started with Logan Paul. He starts hour two. He has a message to his doubters, his haters, and even the superstars who he says, and I quote, have been on his junk like the U.S. title since he got there. If you know, you know, and you probably want to try to forget it, but he reminded everybody that that title has been on his junk, and so has every superstar that's angry that he's taking a spot as a part-timer. Yet he's better than them all, and he learned this quicker than all of them, and he made that it a point for all of those wrestlers backstage to know that. He was really just flaring and flaming up those flames, man. flaring those flames. There you go. He was adding fuel to the fire, and Kevin Owens was having none of it. Before I get to that, Logan Paul, he said that he talked to Nick Aldis earlier in the day, and they decided that they're going to do a tournament because Ray can't come back. He's injured, obviously. So they're going to do a tournament to set up the number one contender for Logan Paul's U.S. Championship. Great, is what BC's thinking. Another tournament. If you follow this channel, even if just for a short amount of time, by now you probably have come to the realization BC cannot stand tournaments in pro wrestling. Once in a blue moon, okay. Like when King of the Ring would come around once a year. WrestleMania 4, remember that big tournament during WrestleMania 4 to crown a new champion? It was, the Macho Man ended up winning that title. If you guys never seen WrestleMania 4, watch it in its whole. It's like 4 hours plus. It's a long WrestleMania. But Macho Man ends up, spoiler, but who cares? It's great. You got to watch it. I mean, there's times for tournaments. In today's pro wrestling, it's just a chance for creative to be lazy and not get creative. It's a chance for whoever's writing this stuff to take a Post-it note. You grab a pen, maybe a Sharpie, maybe it's a highlighter. Who knows? Anything that can write on the Post-it. Maybe it's a crayon, right? And you just write 4 or 5 weeks of action, right? Just a bunch of matches with a bunch of people, and you could write it all in about 5 minutes, and you just pick a winner, and you just wrote 4 or 5 weeks of television. So it's lazy booking, and then on top of that, we have to treat it like it's just a real sporting combat, right? We're going to see who the best in the world is. We're going to see who's the number one contender, and we're going to have to wait weeks and many shows and many matches to find out who it is. And on top of that, it just never makes sense, right? If it made sense, maybe BC would be more on board with it. But I'll give you a little example, right? Look at the participants in this tournament. That's going to start next Friday night. Listen to this, guys. Santos, Escobar. I'm not saying some of these guys don't belong, but it's the list doesn't make sense. Santos, Escobar, Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee just showed up a month ago. Dragon Lee has already lost a couple of matches. He lost at Survivor Series last Saturday. And what's his prize for losing at a pay-per-view? You get a championship opportunity. How? He gets the same opportunity that Santos gets? Santos beat him. And then Santos just won another match tonight. Keep saying last night. I'm so used to reviewing these the next morning. Just not about an hour ago, he just beat another person, Wild. Dragon Lee lost on Saturday, and he just ran to the ring to chase off Escobar, and he gets... It doesn't make sense, man. I just want it to make sense, and then I can believe into it. I can invest in it. So you got Santos and Dragon. You got Theory and Waller. Theory and Waller are below 50-50 booked as of late. They've always been, but below 50-50 booked. And they just both somehow get into this tournament. Then you have Bobby Lashley. He just came back to action tonight. He just got back, and you're throwing him in there. I think Karrion Kross is involved in this. He's definitely in a tag match last night with some of these individuals. I think they threw Karrion Kross. Now, you guys know I'm huge on Karrion. Normally, I'd say this is awesome. Karrion's been gone. His first time back, and you're throwing him into a tournament. If Karrion's in it. I could be mistaken. I know he's coming back next week in a match with some of these participants. NXT Talent. They just said an NXT Talent with a question mark. Guys, I'm not making it up. They said an NXT... They don't even know who. They're just like, we're going to pick an NXT Talent to go for the U.S. Championship. How does that make the title prestigious? You're taking this little developmental talent that nobody knows about because nobody watches NXT. Who? So you're taking an NXT talent. Cameron Grimes, he can't get the light of day. He can't even see it. NXT talent. Kevin Owens is in this thing, right? He's suspended 2 weeks ago. Suspended. Just got back last week. And he's thrusted into a title opportunity. Make it make sense is all I'm asking, right? Where's Solo Sikoa? The guy beat Jonathan Cena. Like, one of the most epic losses John Cena took, by the way. Credit to him. Solo Sikoa destroyed Jonathan Cena. And he gets no U.S. title. And now, again, we're not saying that we need to or want to see Solo in this tournament. No, I do not want to see Solo going for a mid-card title. What I'm saying that is then you can't do these tournaments because they don't make sense. Where's LA Knight? How do all of these people get to go for a title and not LA Knight? And again, I don't want to see LA Knight going for that title. So then that brings me to another huge question. Are they literally waiting for LA Knight, Logan Paul at WrestleMania? So then this is even more goofy. All of it, he already didn't win the US title. You guys remember just a couple months ago, they had the whole fatal 4-way. It was like a mini tournament basically. And LA Knight did not win the US title. Didn't even get the opportunity to. They went Santos and Ray Ray. LA Knight wasn't even good enough to get the US title, a title that Austin Theory has held 4 times. Austin Theory, and Knight couldn't get it. And then they catapulted Knight on 2 weeks' notice to lose to Roman Reigns on a Saturday afternoon crown jewel. So now we wait another 6 months to have LA Knight get a championship that he could, for a second time, couldn't even get into the tournament. He wasn't good enough to get into the tournament with the mystery NXT guy and Dragon Lee and Theory and Waller. That's what I mean. It's not reading too deep into it. It really isn't, guys. Just the simple thing we ask for, many wrestling fans. I know there's so many of you guys like BC. We just want you to care about what you're doing so that the majority of us can suspend the disbelief. I call it suspending belief. Suspend it and enter the wacky world of pro wrestling, which we all love. But make it make sense. Why another tournament? We do these too often. You don't need an entire tournament to decide a number 1 contender. You just have to set up a storyline. You have to care. And it's going to take more than 5 minutes and a Post-it note and a pen. I understand that. But that's your job. You are creative writers. Levesque McMahon has to do the work. You can't rely on laziness. Another tournament. Another tournament where the names don't even make sense and there's names that are not in it. And that doesn't make sense. It's frustrating, man, because there's no thought that goes into this. They're just like, you know what? We just did the Battle Royal idea. We did the mini turmoil idea. Let's do a tournament. It's been a couple months, hasn't it, Ben? It's frustrating, man. Anyway, what happened after that? Yes, then Kevin Owens hits the ring. Owens comes to the ring. He has words for Logan Paul. Theory and Waller come to the ring. Owens drops Theory. We go to commercial break. When we come back from break, it's Owens versus Waller one-on-one. Logan Paul is on commentary. Logan Paul's hilarious, man. Commentary didn't know what to say after Logan Paul was absolutely jabbing and slamming Kevin Owens verbally. Logan Paul says, and I quote, "Kevin Owens inspires me to go to McDonald's." He then says, or that was after actually, he said, "I consider Owens just an Otis on a diet." He said, "I consider Owens just to be an Otis on a diet." Calling him fat, obviously. And then saying, I think it was Corey Graves asking Michael Cole, "Are you not inspired by Logan Paul?" And Paul responded saying, "I'm inspired by looking at Kevin Owens. I'm inspired to go to McDonald's." Man, it was, and after he cut these jabs, commentary was just silent, and then you could hear a little bit of laughter. They're like, damn, we're live. And when Owens finds out about this, I wouldn't be surprised if Owens just try to smack him upside his dome piece backstage. Anyway, KO defeats Waller via pinfall off the awe-inspiring, ultra-devastating roll-up. You knew you were going to see a roll-up. I didn't expect the face, Kevin Owens, just to roll up Waller and win that way. But you got Theory out there. You got Logan Paul out there. And Owens was really selling a hand injury. So he just wanted to squeak by with the roll-up and hit the shower. So odd pinfall, odd match, odd everything. That's what I mean. It's just another segment where it's just a rather tame, uneventful SmackDown. Until the end, like I said. Bianca Belair was up next against Kairi Sane. Bianca defeats Kairi, Sane via pinfall off the KOD. Bayley even helped Kairi late in this match. Charlie and Shotzi get ejected for interfering. Damage Control then gets ejected for interfering. Dakota Kai and Io and Asuka. So they all get ejected. And it was weird too, because Asuka was like just in the ring. Like, what are you doing? You're not even trying to like hide it. So that was very odd. The whole match was not great. Kairi and Bianca just did not have chemistry. And you guys know how high I am on Kairi and Bianca. It's sad to say that they didn't have chemistry. There was a time when they were going to commercial and you could see Bianca Belair like yelling at Kairi to do something. I think she was screaming like, stay down, stay down. And right before commercial, Kairi's like up about to throw a forearm. It was funny. But they didn't really gel. The ejections didn't really jive correctly. And after everybody was ejected, Bayley hits ringside. Now Bayley played her role perfectly. She actually took out Bianca. And Kairi is looking like she saw a ghost. And she slowly goes to the top rope to do her flying, ooh yeah, macho man elbow, which is flawless, by the way. I love seeing it. We didn't get to see it, though. Super Belair jumps up to her feet. After Bayley took her out, she jumps to her feet and she just KODs Kairi. And 1, 2, 3, Kairi's looking up at Kairi just got back to WWE. Why is she eating such a simplistic loss? Would be my question. Like, there's so many ways you could do this better. Bianca did not need that W. And another notch to make Damage Control just look absolutely clueless and full of buffoonery. There was no need for any of it. And again, Bayley, you could say another seed was planted to try to nudge Bayley out of the group, but Bayley played her role beautifully. She helped out big time, didn't cause a distraction. Nothing. Kairi's like, whoa, it's Bayley. Like it's not The Rock. You got to get up there, do your Macho Man elbow. Whew. This was to sum up the night for Damage Control, because I said this in my preview video. We put it up about hour and a half before SmackDown. Again, I had a lot of work to do, and I could not get that preview up until really late. So it only went up like an hour before SmackDown went live. But in that preview, if you guys did catch it, I told you guys WWE was promoting it as what's next for Damage Control. It was a big focal point of their preview. So in our preview, a big discussion was what needs to happen with Damage Control. They have to have a big night, is what I said, right? Damage Control needs a big night. So let's sum it up. They lose at War Games Saturday night. Just lose at War Games. As a unit, that's what they are. Everybody else is a singles wrestler coming together, the faces. They lose at War Games. Then, to begin the show, they get beat up, they get whooped, and then they retreat, run away. And then to end the night, they get beat in a straight up loss looking up at the lights. That sums up the entire week of Damage Control. That's what I mean about questionable booking. And it helps nobody. This does nothing. I'm huge on Bianca. You guys know I'm not so huge on Charlie or even Shotzi, but I'm huge on Bianca. And I'll be the first to say this does nothing for Bianca. Another W and beating up Damage Control yet again. Charlie, it certainly does nothing for her. Shotzi, I don't know. Judging by the reaction of all these crowds, I don't see what it's doing for her. I'm happy she's getting the time of day. I'm happy she's getting some spotlight. I don't know if this is the situation I'd have her in. Because right now, there's certain individuals that need that a lot more, and they're heels, and they're called Damage Control. Very weird how they get Kairi, they get Asuka. Do you guys remember? It was just a few weeks ago, man. The group formed, and the wrestling world was actually excited. Like, damn, Kairi's back. Asuka's now with them. Dude, Damage Control is finally a unit. Now, you might say, well, BC, once Bayley's out of the group, that's when they'll be formidable. How do we know that, though? The companies never give you any inkling or indication that they even care to put stock into this group. And that's with Bayley. It was her creation. You think without it, they're finally just going to wake up one morning and go, we got to book Damage Control to the moon. And again, they're heels. So I understand there's going to be some of these losses and hiccups in the road, right? These speed bumps. But this is one too many, man. I don't know why you would assemble some of the best wrestlers on the planet for females and book them like this. I have them winning at War Games. Charlie didn't need that. Bianca didn't need that. Becky didn't need that. Damage Control? I'd even sacrifice a Bayley being booted storyline to watch Damage Control have the victory of a lifetime as a unit. Because just last year we saw them lose. Damage Control. War Games. Odd. Now, for the positivity people out there, here we go. The end of the show, man. Randy Orton in the big decision ends SmackDown. Is he going Raw? Is he going SmackDown? Which will he choose? Both Pierce and Aldis are stating their cases out there. They both have their contract. Aldis and Pierce are trying to talk over one another as Randy Orton is just looking at him like, what the fuck? Tweedledee and Tweedledum over here. Paul Heyman interrupts. You knew Paul Heyman was coming out. He says the Bloodline is going to make the decision for you. So Orton, of course, is looking behind him all over. But no, they took the high road. Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso actually come from the aisleway, from the curtain, out of the curtain, music and all. So there was no ambush attack. Solo Jimmy hit the ring. LA Knight follows suit to even up the odds. LA and Solo fight to the back. This leaves Jimmy Uso to receive an RKO, a thunderous RKO in the ring. Jimmy Uso, by the way, he took this RKO and he pretty much played dead for the rest of the night, which was like another 5 minutes, guys. I got to give him some props. He took that RKO and he didn't move for the rest of the night. The rest of the segment, the rest of the show. And Jimmy Uso gets RKO'd, and then Orton takes both contracts. He goes to Pierce, gets the Raw contract. Goes to Aldis, gets the SmackDown contract. He walks around, circling like a shark in the waters, Jimmy Uso. Almost like Brock Lesnar used to do. And he just chucks the Raw contract out of the ring. He signs the SmackDown contract. He takes out the microphone that he put in his pocket. He takes it out and he tells Paul Heyman. He says, Paul, this is a quote, Paul, you can call Roman Reigns and tell him daddy's back. Now you think that's where the show's ending, right? Nick Aldis enters the ring. Nick Aldis holds the hand up of Randy Orton. And I'm like, could you imagine if Orton RKO'd Nick Aldis, the general manager of SmackDown? Just a thought that I had. Bam! RKO. Aldis goes down like a ton of bricks. It was great, bro. Actually popped BC. Actually jumped up. I was like, oh shit, he just took out Aldis. It was badass. Aldis takes it. I think that's his first bump since being in WWE. Nick Aldis. So Orton, and Orton's like, oh, I didn't want to do that. Like, Orton's face is just flawless. He's like, I didn't want to do that. Oh, no. And then he goes, oh, well, you can't trust the Viper. DTA is what Stone Cold used to say, man. And he got a little too close to Randy Orton. Orton doesn't like that. Who are you to take my hand and raise it? Nah. And he drops Aldis. And it makes sense storyline-wise, because Aldis said, I'm willing to do anything. I'll give you anything. I'll raise the price to whatever you need it. I want Orton on this brand. And he basically said, all right, but I'm going to be calling the shots. It's like Aaron Rodgers trying to hijack the Green Bay Packers, right? Took a long time for my Packers to say, no, get out. So then he found the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers is hijacking the Jets, right? CM Punk, he saw how Tony Khan operated things, and Punk was like, you know what? I can run this. I can try at least to run this place. Tried to hijack over at AEW. You know, you get certain individuals, if they see a lane where they can pretty much take control of even the boss, they'll take it. So Randy Orton knows he's in a prime position. He drops Aldis, and he doubts very much he's going to get suspended. Could you imagine if he did? I don't know how you're going to put that wrinkle into the storyline. But all this gets RKO'd, guys. And we celebrate for another minute, right? Randy Orton celebrates. The crowd is just... The reaction that Orton got last night, guys, I'm telling you, it's up there with Knight, Cody, with Jey Uso at his height. Even Punk in Chicago, man, New York was that hyped. You guys can go back, watch, listen to yourself. It just went off the air not long ago. So it's pretty fresh. It's pretty fresh. I mean, that response was so it was vivid. It was electric. It was loud to an amplified level. And that was really cool to see. And this is the Orton. I told you guys, man, this is what I mean. I never BS you guys, man. We can like certain things and not, right? Like I just said, I don't really connect with Dragon Lee, but a lot of people do. A lot of people liked RK Bro. A lot of us didn't. But it wasn't about what we liked and didn't. BC told you from the jump, this is not the best way to utilize Randy Orton. And I know he was in a little bit of pain and had some nagging injuries, so they put him in a tag team. But this is a shell of what Orton is and should be. This is the one I always told you guys. This is what we need more of. Thankfully, it took us 18 months and a lot of agony and pain and surgery for Orton. And we're glad that he's back. But this is the Orton that captivates. This is the Randy Orton that is top tier main event caliber. That type of reaction, that type of response. I told you guys, man. Like I said, for 5 years, Roman Reigns has to turn heel. And everyone said, stop, BC. It's never going to happen. Just stop, man. He's fine the way he is. He gets a reaction. No, I said Roman will be better if he ever turns heel. The company will be better. The fans will care more. Now, they took this title reign longer than it should have been. He should have lost it at 39 against Cody. Now we all know that. Even the people that thought he needed struggle and adversity, even to their credit, they admit it. But no, we have to wait another year just to maybe get that moment. Okay, makes no sense, and it just devalued everything afterwards for Roman. But the point is, before 39, we were pretty much captivated by most of what Roman was doing. That's what I mean. There's what we like and what we don't like. But then there's just what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. And those are the discussions you have to have. And on this channel, we're absolutely going to have, because facts will always be put into the forefront. So you bring it back full circle. This is the Randy Orton that has been desperately needed, because we get segments like that with reactions like that. You weren't getting that reaction when he was buying Matt Riddle scooters for his birthday, or Matt Riddle was professing his daddy issues to Randy Orton. You weren't getting any of that. Man, it was so good to see Randy Orton back. You forget how much you missed him, because when he was here before the injury and before his hiatus, he wasn't doing much. But to have this guy, man, WWE Pro Wrestling just got another top tier main eventer back. So good, guys. So good. What an just incredible segment. That's all I ask for. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science. We're not asking you to move mountains. Just put together fun, captivating television with people we care about. And it had so many moving parts. Paul Heyman, you have Pierce and Nick Aldis fighting over Orton. You truly don't know which way he's going to go, but if you follow this channel, I pretty much told you guys exactly what we were hearing. They want to catapult Orton into the Bloodline immediately, which means Orton was going to SmackDown, and he was going to be inserted with Roman in the Bloodline immediately. I told you guys to prepare for that, and yet again, I was correct. So we kind of knew, but storyline-wise, it was fun, Which will he choose? And then Paul Heyman comes out, Solo and Jimmy on the attack, LA Knight for the save. And then Orton even drops Aldis to end the night. And Aldis, the final shot of SmackDown was Aldis, while Orton is up on the ropes doing his pose, Aldis and Jimmy were not moving at all. They were selling this RKO like the Titanic landed on them. or the freaking, what was that? The Wizard of Oz, the house falls on the witch. like two houses fell on Aldis and one on Jimmy. They were not moving a muscle. And we had the aerial view as we went off the air. Anyway, guys, such a good segment. And on a rather tame, uneventful SmackDown, that saved the show for BC. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Current status, we are out. Top guys, BC and his unit. From the red team to my channel members, gold team. Check you. Peace.